then I do feel a little bit more nervous at this point.
You look at the Panthers, and they have the worst offense in the NFL. So it makes sense that they want an offensive mind.
Ben Johnson took a bottom 10 offense in the Detroit Lions and took him the top 3.
First, I don't want to lose him.
Promote Ben Johnson just to keep him, bro.
Because who would replace him? More detrimental to this team to lose Ben Johnson than it would be to lose Dan Campbell.
Odds have come out of who can become the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers. On that list is Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson at plus 950.
Don't like that.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
Don't like it. And what makes it a little bit more scarier is David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, had come out and said he wants an offensive mind to lead this team with the next regime.
Yeah, I would too.
Like initially, I would dismiss this immediately, right? Because Ben Johnson hasn't been an offensive coordinator for a whole season yet.
Yes.
But then I sat back a little bit. Ben Johnson, I don't know if you guys know this, he's a walk-on quarterback for North Carolina. So I'm sure there's some ties there, just in the community and the state in itself. 2, Mike McDaniel was only offensive coordinator for 1 year under the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes.
Then become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, which looked pretty damn good up until all the injuries happened with them. And even honestly, he's still competing with a third-string quarterback at times. Then I do feel a little bit more nervous at this point.
Yeah, it makes me a little nervous. You don't like to see him come up in that situation. Hopefully, it's Kellen Moore. Just go take Kellen Moore. He used to play for the Lions, so it's kind of close. But you look at the Panthers, and they have the worst offense in the NFL. They're averaging 260 yards a game, only 90 yards on the ground with Christian McCaffrey. They're only averaging 17.2 points per game. So it makes sense that they want an offensive mind. It makes sense that they want to bring someone in there that's going to help Baker Mayfield be better. I wouldn't want the job personally if I'm a top offensive coordinator. I'm like, nah, I'm good on Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Jets legend Sam Darnold. But you look at what they're doing in Carolina. They're going to fire sale everybody, is what they're talking about. So you expect them to get rid of Christian McCaffrey. You expect them to trade Brian Burns, Derek Brown. So what is a head coach going to be walking into there? I don't know if Ben Johnson is going to be that hot of a commodity to where he's already going to be getting a job, like you said, after a month, his first month of being a coordinator in the NFL. But it's scary to see him on that graphic. I mean, it makes me feel good because, okay, we were right about this guy. This guy knows what he's doing. But, man, first, I don't want to lose him. Because, man, I don't think Dan Campbell, man, can do the same thing, man. If we lose Ben Johnson, man, we might be right back next year to being 3-13 again, man. So that scares me. Losing Ben Johnson scares me. It really does. Because who would replace him? Who would you get? Is Hank Fraley? Is it Deuce Staley? I don't know about if those guys are the X's and O's kind of guys that Ben Johnson is. They're that kind of analytic, offensive genius is what he's called.
No one in this coaching staff is what Ben Johnson is.
Yeah. So
Ben Johnson, even when I looked up to see, obviously found out went to North Carolina as a walk-on as a quarterback. Dude studied mathematics and computer science. Dude is literally borderline genius in a way. I mean, you look at it too. Before you say look at Mike McDaniel and he became the head coach of the 1 year. Well, it's because he went to the NFC Championship. We're saying with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
And same sentiment. Ben Johnson took a bottom 10 offense in the Detroit Lions and took him the top 3 the following year.
Yes.
Now the season obviously hasn't played itself out, and we still have to see what that entails. But nonetheless, night and day difference with him under the helm. And we saw even just again, I always say this all the time, just a little sprinkle of him. Intricating on the offense last year. We saw them come alive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you see him get a little bit of power, like you said last year. You see him install a little bit of a game plan of situational awareness, and that offense popped off, and Amon-Ra popped off. And we're like, where the hell was this guy all year? Why the hell was Anthony Lynn not using him like this? Because Ben Johnson knew what he was doing. Ben Johnson put him in situations to where he can succeed, to where he can excel as a player. So Lions fans will hate to see Ben Johnson go, and the Detroit Lions as an organization cannot let that happen. Martha Hamp, Sheila Ford Hamp Martha Ford and Sheila Hamp need to sit in a room together and be like, yeah, we can't let Ben Johnson go. The Detroit Lions cannot let this happen. The Detroit Lions cannot let Ben Johnson walk out of those doors after what he's done to this offense. Like you said, through 5 games, he's made them a top 3 offense in the NFL. We all thought he was going to be better. We all thought this offense was going to be better.
Yeah.
But no one expected this.
For sure, and I get that part of it too, right? They actually had some weapons to work with this year. For sure, Jared Goff had like poop to work with last year.
Yep.
But on top of that, though, we've seen Ben Johnson incorporate himself in last year's offense.
Yes.
And he saw things turn around. That was the argument the Jared Goff lovers had. Look at him in the second half of the season, and that's because of Ben Johnson. When the players hit the podium post games, they're like, yeah, thanks to Ben Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know he's like the big reason why they got stuff turned around. Like, he is. And by the way, too, like, beyond that, he was like renowned around the league. Zach Taylor, a guy who was in the Super Bowl last year as a head coach, was like, damn, I would have loved some Ben Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, they gave him the upgrade, so we couldn't take him. That's the one way you keep a guy on your team from leaving to another franchise is if he's getting like a promotion. Obviously, we gave him that as an offensive coordinator. Even if they sat him in a room, we couldn't leave. He's going to become a head coach at that point.
I say we make him super offensive coordinator next year, so he can't leave. We give him anything he wants, like
assistant to assistant head coach.
This is the one thing that has been good for this Lions season. The one thing you can hang your hat on, the one thing you can be like, all right, that looks pretty good. The Lions look like they're doing a good job, is Ben Johnson's offense. So Lions fans need to rally around that. Lions fans need to go downtown and stop Ben Johnson's plane from taking off if he's going to interview in Carolina. Like, they need to crowd the runway and make sure he cannot leave the city. Because you cannot let a guy like that escape your franchise if you're the Detroit Lions. You cannot let it happen. Yes, Cheese Nips.
Well, my biggest thing, obviously, for him, he wants to move up his career and everything like that. I guess the biggest question mark, there's been questions around Dan Campbell. Who would you rather have as head coach right now? Ben Johnson or Dan Campbell?
Ben Johnson. Like that's my solution to the issue, right? Because if he's going to become a head coach, we're going to lose him. Dan Campbell has had questionable moments. Like, people want to fire AG. I'm more. If I'm obviously in charge, and I'm not, but I'm more likely to fire Dan Campbell than I am AG. And I would then promote Ben Johnson just to keep him, bro. I mean, I said this before, too. Like, you look at Sean McVay. You look at, actually, Kyle Shanahan's the name I want to go to. Andy Reid, Bill Belichick. They started these coaching trees because the way that team was built and coached was with their philosophy. Like, Dan Campbell, as much as I love him as a go-get-em man and a badass dude, chewing his lip and all that stuff like that, he's not the X and O guy. He's not the philosophy guy. If you have a Ben Johnson, he's passing that on. You know what I'm saying? Other guys are coming up in the coaching reins with the knowledge that he has. And then you have your Mike McDaniels. You have your Kevin O'Connells. You know what I'm saying? Branch off of that. And then it'd be okay to possibly lose him.
If that was the only way, if he came up to you and said, I'm going to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers next year unless you fire Dan Campbell. Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
Michael Jackson Thriller.
Yeah, what do you, Lightning McQueen?
I was trying to the Jay-Z one.
I am Speed.
I am Speed. Khalil Pimpleton. But he's blazing. And it's tough. That is a tough thing.
Simpleton.
You want Dan Campbell to work out. You want Dan Campbell to get his time, but I think it would be more detrimental to this team to lose Ben Johnson than it would be to lose Dan Campbell.
Well, yeah.
So would you do it? You put me in the spot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I probably would.
That's what I'm saying. If we see more Minnesota moments, off with his head.
But how quickly? You're not going to have as much time to, let that sit. If that Carolina does offer, are you going to be able to say? I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to fire Dan Campbell this year. You can't even let it. You can't even let it hit where he has an interview with Carolina. You have to make him interim and then extend the contract. But we have to go to break.
I just don't think that they're like willing to do that, though. Is what my opinion is.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Because
coaches' contracts are guaranteed. Dan Campbell's got a 6-year one.
That'd be a big move, and we love Ben Johnson. We love Dan Campbell, but the Lions defense needs some